Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Pharmacist Diaries podcast. I am here today with Kwame Osei Owusu, and I'm really excited to introduce him to this week's episode. He's an NHS Clinical Pharmacist who specialised in mental health and currently working in a mental health NHS trust. He's also a health content creator, a public speaker, and a podcaster. The podcast is called The Shelf Conversation. We are going to talk all about mental health and Kwame's challenges, struggles, and his journey into pharmacy. So let's dive into this week's episode. Hi, Kwame.
Hello, Anisha.
So happy to have you here.
Likewise, I am happy to be in your seat.
And I love that you're a pharmacist who's also a podcaster. So let's get that out right in the beginning.
That's it.
That's so exciting for me.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that we connected on LinkedIn, and we've had the opportunity to now meet in person and record in my home. So I guess tell me a little bit about your journey into pharmacy and why you decided to become a pharmacist in the first place.
Thank you, Anisha, for asking that question. My journey into becoming a pharmacist has not been a smooth one, which a lot of people will be able to resonate. Initially, pharmacy and medicine has actually been side by side for me. But getting closer to me picking a choice, it was after I had actually sat my UK card and I realized that I need to take the pharmacy route because everybody who has actually done the application for medicine would actually understand how competitive it is. So after my UK card, when I actually check my score and I check it with the previous year's score, I realized that it's better for me to focus on pharmacy, get it through, and actually go to university, because prior to that, I had actually taken the decision to take my whole A-level again because of one subject that I didn't do well. So I decided to actually go via the pharmacy route, whereby I actually did my interviews. I passed fantastically with all my interviews and everything. However, I ended up didn't get any of my universities on the results day because I have to go through clearing. Went to Medway School of Pharmacy and started with pharmacy. And that didn't even make the journey smoother. First year was fantastic. Second year, unfortunately, had the demise of my sister. And that even made the journey really, really tough because it started bringing a lot of stress and a lot of support that I didn't actually get. And I had to basically fight my way through. COVID happened. We have to actually end up continue our studies from home. And I ended up actually, by God's grace, graduating from the School of Pharmacy, and I started my Pre-Reg. But the initial concept of me actually becoming a pharmacist was because my mom is a type 2 diabetic, and hearing her story about how she was using metformin to actually control her blood pressure, her blood glucose became very, very fascinating. So having that knowledge behind medication, getting to know about how medication works, really intrigued me to actually take the pathway of actually becoming a pharmacist, because I had actually heard a lot of people becoming pharmacists, but I didn't know much about pharmacy as a profession. The only thing I knew more about was medicine, because that had actually been my focus from the get-go, because it's actually been the field that I wanted to actually practice. So when the decision came that I had to actually end up picking pharmacy, I had to actually use a short period of time to do my research, get to know about the profession, do work experience, which thank God I had the opportunity of actually doing some work experience in pharmacy and even in hospital to be able to see the role that a pharmacist play. And when I actually ended up seeing the kind of work that pharmacists do not get the applause for, made me really appreciate it as a profession, that is the pathway I wanted to go.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that as well. It's quite personal when you go through struggles or challenges, you face obstacles within your journey as a professional. It's quite difficult to share those things publicly. So I appreciate you kind of diving into that. What was it during pharmacy school, if we dive into that a little bit deeper, that when you were actually studying first, second, third year, fourth year, what were the specific obstacles that you were facing? One of which is definitely the pandemic and having to switch from a face-to-face environment to then a very online, lonely experience studying at home. Your normal kind of university life would have definitely changed.
Yes.
Friendships may not have even had a chance to even develop because you have gone from a normal university setting into a home setting. So maybe go into a little bit of detail as to how you felt during that time.
One thing that most often a lot of people do not hear much about is pharmacy students talking about their struggles. So most of the time we hear more of the medical students talking more about their struggles, how much exams they have to write here and there. But people don't know that it's similar to pharmacy students' experience, because you will actually start one module within a space of approximately 6 weeks. That module is done. The following week, you're writing an exam. So exam and the fast pace of the degree always put that pressure on you to always be learning, whereby most people end up sacrificing their social life to be able to complete modules. And in the context of it, you are doing 9 to 5, and you have 9 to 5 maybe from Monday to Friday, or sometimes you have 9 to 5, and in between you would actually end up having like 3 hours break, and you have to come back to lectures. So that kind of routine was something that most of us were not used to, because it's a pattern that you have to end up grasping information really quick. Lectures, you have to be learning whilst the lecture is going on. You can't actually end up saying that, let me actually end up writing notes when I go to my accommodation, or when the lecture finishes, I'll get time to actually grasp all the information. It wouldn't work. You have to grasp the information as you go along. So that fast pace of the degree alone was a struggle for most of us. But one thing that really paid off was the dedication to learn. So because it's fast paced and a lot of us were not used to it, most of the time, it ends up leading to a lot of us have to actually skip content, because you end up actually have to play the cards of, maybe this might be the possible questions that I'm going to be asked. But unfortunately, it doesn't always work. So all the time, it ends up leading to people doing retake, which I'm a prime example of the people who actually ended up doing retakes. And it was not fun, because you have to sacrifice your summer holidays to be writing one exam. You might end up end up writing 2 exams. Sometimes you'll be doing retakes after your MCQ. All of these ended up mounting a lot of pressure on a lot of people, not only me, which my year group, we ended up experiencing that kind of harsh reality when we reached the 3rd year, whereby majority of my colleagues and myself, we had to actually end up doing a retake, and we had to actually opt for the option of actually doing the whole year of retake itself. So those actually were the real struggles that we actually ended up going through. That was general, and I was part of it. But personally, it was the first big blow was my 2nd year, when 3 days before my January exam, I got a phone call that my sister has passed. And I was in the middle of Kent, and this has happened in Ghana, and I just left home in London. And getting this news, it was a big, massive struggle for me, because I had 2 options: either to stop everything I'm doing in Kent, get back home in London, and come and grieve, or I would just have to just keep my head down, do the exam, and, life actually moves on, which I took the latter option, which was to get my head down and actually do the exam, and life moves on. But I wish that I actually ended up taking that break, which eventually had those kind of effect on me. And apart from my sister's demise, in my final year, it also happened again. My grandma passed. So it was struggling with demise, struggling with the pressure of coping in the School of Pharmacy. As you made mention of, the COVID had a massive effect on our studies as well, because we have to actually end up do a lot of stuff solely based online. But thank God I had my study group, which was my group of friends that we actually did studies together, even doing pre-reg as well, which helped us to be able to support each other through it, pass our exams, get out, and actually graduate from university. So that is actually some of the struggles that we went through, and I personally went through as well.
I mean, that sounds like a really tough experience.
It was.
And I'm really sorry to hear about, your sister and the struggles that you've been through, and your grandma as well.
Yeah.
And when it's unexpected, it's difficult to know what to do in the moment. And making those decisions can be really challenging, right?
It is.
And pharmacy has a lot of pressure.
It has.
It's intense. And like you've described it really well, it is 9 to 5 every day. I experienced exactly the same when I went to university. It's 9 to 5, and it's bringing back some of those memories of how I coped as a student. I mean, it's not that long ago, but it's 14 years ago that I graduated. But you do the 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 schedule, and then you have to get home and prepare for the next day, or do the homework that's required, do the coursework that's required, prep for the exams, the OSCEs, the calculations, quizzes. It is never ending. And what I've realized from teaching university students now, because obviously I teach King's College London students, and I was teaching first years, but now I kind of go across all year groups in terms of dispensing classes, consultation skills, simulation classes. And a lot of the first years find it quite difficult to transition from what they experience in A-levels and how much input they have on a day-to-day basis with lectures. So a lot of students will relay information that they may only have 4 or 5 hours of lectures per day, sometimes less. In fact, some days they have a complete day off where they have time to catch up on all the reading, the coursework, prepping for exams. But when you're in pharmacy, unlike a lot of other degrees, where you get so much free time to do all of that work, you have to be so organized. You have to manage your time so efficiently. And in fact, sometimes you have to do that 2-in-1 situation where you're attending a lecture and you can't just sit and concentrate on what the professor or the pharmacist is telling you. You have to actively take notes during the lecture. I remember my hands used to hurt from writing so fast, because we didn't really use iPads or laptops. We absolutely were handwriting notes at the time. So we were, scrambling to write notes, or we would pre-print the slides out and then, write on them. And then we would rewrite them when we got home. And this was just common sort of study methods that people were using back then. And we used to spend hours rewriting notes in order to prep for the exams. And my students to this day are still doing that. So they have a few weeks where they go by, and then they literally get to the point where they are overloaded with stress because they're like, I am so far behind on my notes. But one of the strategies that I used, and I always explain to my students, is that it's really good to prep before you get to the lecture. Know what content's going to come up. What are the nice guidelines, for example, that are going to come up? What's the chapter from the BNF that you might be covering if it's a clinical topic? And try to spend 30 to 45 minutes preparing for that lecture before, so that you're already aware of some of the information that's going to come up. And then it feels like a little bit of a recap during the moment. And it's easier to then take the notes, and you don't have so much to do afterwards. And the other thing is, if you're going to take notes the second time round, do them very soon after the lecture when the information is totally fresh. Because a lot of students wait 2 to 3 weeks and then they feel like they're starting from scratch, where they don't remember anything at all. And it's really hard to keep up because there is so much going on. You're not just learning clinical content. You've got pharmaceutics, you've got chemistry, you've got biology, pathophysiology, you've got labs that you're working on.
You've got calculations to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a real information overload. And to get through pharmacy, like to get through medicine, it really tests a lot of your skill set, and it prepares you obviously for the real world. Which is awesome. But at the same time, you've got to have the stamina and the endurance to get through that degree. So having the pandemic kind of hit you as a university student must be really, really hard. I know a lot of students, when I was teaching, that went through the pandemic, found it a very lonely experience studying from home. They are the type of students that struggle to make friends anyways, and then they never had a chance to do it. And then it's this whole like online Teams thing, which is just awkward and uncomfortable. And It was hard.
Yes.
It was really, really hard. And then you just don't feel like you get that true university experience, do you?
No.
So it is difficult, but you've made it through. And
Yes.
in your life, you are the first person in your family to be a pharmacist, and you're the first person in your family to achieve a master's degree. And that's something to be really proud of and really exciting as part of your journey, right? Here's a mistake most people make when choosing a supplement: not considering the source of the ingredients. Many supplements use synthetic vitamins within their ingredients. This means they have been made in bulk in factories to mimic natural vitamins. They are chemically identical to vitamins found in nature and often more cost-effective and widely available. However, and this is the most important point to remember, natural supplements and those that come from plants, fruits, or other natural sources have additional benefits and often contain extra nutrients, fibers, and plant compounds that support your overall health, and they are generally easier for the body to absorb. You may find that these are more expensive to purchase, but the benefits are definitely worth it. Check out thenakedpharmacy.com, where you can find naturally sourced supplements for your health and well-being. Use code PD20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase. And when you got to your pre-reg year,
Yes.
where did you do your pre-registration?
I did a Superdrug in London, in Edgware to be specific. So that's where I actually did my pre-reg.
And how was that experience for you in terms of managing again, it's another transition, isn't it? A-level to university, university to the real world. How was the transition for you?
It was quite challenging because, as I made mention of, that university prepared us for the 9 to 5, but my pre-reg was 9 to 6. So it was no hospital. So 9 to 6, Monday to Friday. On top of it, after the busy day at work, you're going to be drained. However, you're expected to end up doing studies after your 9 to 6 because you have to prepare for your pre-reg exams. And on top of it, you have to be doing your portfolios as well. So it was really kind of like a struggling moment because you have to balance work with preparing for the exam, which everybody has got their own ways and means of actually doing it. Some people decide to start doing their learning from the get-go. And in terms of, for our viewers, on listeners, in terms of preparation for the exam, you have got clinical and you've got calculation. And the clinical is basically the whole BNF and extra piece of information which you need to actually know, which is the RPS, Medicine and Ethics and Practice book, whereby you have to know the updated laws governing medication. You need to actually end up knowing about the laws, which is governing, which I've made mention of, knowing about the new medication, know about the new changes, and they can give you possible scenarios that you have to use as a pharmacist. You have to use your judgment to give the best possible answer. So it was quite of a new experience for us and for me as well. But as time got on, we actually ended up grasping it. But for me, what actually became the struggle was sometimes you don't know where to start from and you have to join revision groups. Though Superdrug we were part of this training scheme whereby you would actually end up going for away days. We go spend like 3 days away as a whole pre-reg group from our different cohort, from the same cohort, but different branches of Superdrug across the whole country. We all meet, we practice stuff, preparation together and everything. So it was all going well until we ended up getting closer to the exam. Everybody started panicking and we did our practice, and I would say the calculation was the hardest. And every single person, one of the calculations was so hard that it started demotivating people. People start saying, no, I'm not ready for it here and there. But getting closer to the exam, I was 100% prepared for the exam, the calculation and everything. But one thing that actually tripped me was the calculation, which I think I was 3 marks off. And we were the second batch of cohorts in the country who are actually doing the pre-reg exam online, because back then we used to do it in London. They used to do it in Excel, London, whereby it's the big hall and you have to do it on a piece of paper and everything. But we were the people who did it online. And As a second group, there's going to definitely be technical hitches, which was across the whole country. So my one, I was actually affected by some of these technical hitches, and it was very annoying because you will be scrolling with the mouse and the system was moving very, very slow. So at the end of the day, we lost a bit of time and everything. So when I got my results, I was really, really unhappy. Like, I was so angry at myself that how did I actually miss 3 marks? So I actually opted. I said, you know what, straight away, I'm going to apply for the second sitting of this exam. And bear in mind, this Pre-Reg exam, you get 3 attempts. And the whole, as you're aware, the whole of the pharmacy journey has to be 8 years. And within the 8 years, you have to take your Pre-Reg. Once the 8 years is exhausted, you can't actually end up becoming a pharmacist because you've actually ended up exhausting all your years. So I think I had almost about 2 years. And after the first sitting of the exam, I was so angry at myself. But I called my tutor and I explained everything. So my tutor was like, my tutor actually made me explain what happened on the day of the exam because I was confident. I told him, and he was like, why don't you apply for an appeal for the exam? And I was like, appeal? I was like, yeah, you can appeal for it because you were affected by these factors, which was actually beyond your control. But I'm the kind of person that I hate to put blame on certain things when things go wrong. I always want to acknowledge that I did it, and which is really, really tough that I always do that to myself. So when my tutor actually said that, it really rang a bell. I was like, you know what, let me give it a shot. So it was left with just less than 24 hours before they close anyone who wants to appeal. So I was not actually really, he told me on Friday, I was like, you know, let me think about it. Sunday, I got a friend who also, from the previous years, who had to actually end up do the Pre-Reg exam more than once. I got a call from the friend, sat me down, talked me through that. I understand you are mad at yourself and everything, but I would encourage you to appeal. Worst comes to worst, they will say, no, there's nothing, there's no harm in trying. So the appeal, I think, was supposed to, with the window closed at 5, at, I think, 4:30, that's when I've gone to an internet cafe, uploaded my evidence and everything. Then I sent it. So when I sent it, I just, shut it behind me, preparing for my next sitting. Then I got an email, I think a week or 2 later, I got an email that like, your appeal has been accepted and you have been given a provisional license to practice as which they call as a Pre-Reg pharmacist, which is a provisional pharmacist. So that allowed me to actually end up practicing for, I think, 6 months until my results come. So I had my next sitting in November, which I sat the exam. I sat the same exam. Unfortunately, the part I passed, which was the first one, I passed clinicals and I didn't pass calculations. This time around, I passed calculation and I missed 2 or 3 marks on clinicals, which is another daunting moment and another challenging. And all the time, I don't receive my results at home. The first one, I was away from home, 5 hours away from London. Second one, I was in Ghana. I received on the Tuesday. I've gone to Ghana in December for Christmas holidays. Family is there. And I received this bad news. It was very, very challenging. But I said to myself, I'm not going to let this stress me, because if I allow this to stress me, there was no point of me booking this holiday. The whole point of booking this holiday is to come here, relax, and prepare myself for the year ahead. So even if it has not gone according to how I wanted, I'm going to put it behind me. Called my mom. My mom was always affected. I called my mom. I ended up actually telling her the truth that this is what's happened. She was unhappy. Not that she's mad at me, but she's just sad that it's not happening, because everybody is expected it to actually happen, because everybody knows how much work I put in my preparation and everything. I don't joke with my studies and everything. So fast forward, I had actually been given a role as, I was going to start a role as a Band 6 mental health pharmacist after my first sitting. But that same day that the results came, I had my interview So the interview didn't come on. So later on, I called them and I told them that this is what's happened. And they're like, okay, no worries. After your second sitting, let us know. Bear in mind, my first sitting, after the appeal, it was nullified, which means I'm starting November is my first exam. So when my November didn't actually happen, I had to actually tell them my work again that this was happened. And like, you know what? Since you have actually opted to actually sit this exam again, we're going to give you the opportunity of being a band 5 pharmacist stroke pharmacy technician of working with us. So whilst you're working with us, at least you'll be able to pick up the skills. You're going to get paid. You're also going to know more about the role that you're going to actually end up starting, hopefully, when you pass your next sitting. So don't worry, just do it. So I actually took that offer, did it, and sat the third attempt, which the third attempt, which is technically my second time of sitting. Sorry, my third time of sitting, but it's actually my second official attempt because the first one has been nullified. And lo and behold, the results came, and on that day, I was not even at home again. I was away from home, but I was actually at a place that I said to myself that I'm away from home. This time around, I'm on a pilgrimage. If worst comes to worst, God does not want me to be a pharmacist. I know myself that over here, God is going to choose the right profession for me because he wouldn't bring me to this pilgrimage and he wouldn't actually talk to me. So usually you wake up around like 5 or 6-ish, go to your portal, you receive an email saying that you've received an update on your portal, your pharmacy portal. So I decided this time around, I'm not going to wake up at 5 or 6. I'm just going to sleep and wake up anytime I want. And whatever time I wake up and I see the results, I see it because I'm sick and tired of waking up at 5 or 6, seeing the same kind of outcome. Unfortunately, it didn't make it. So I remember vividly, I was in Portugal. I was in a family house, went on pilgrimage, and I've been hosted by a family. I'd had my shower. I was in the room. And before the breakfast, God was telling me that, you know what, check it. Because that could actually end up lightening or brightening your day. So I opened the results, and the first one I saw was congratulations. I was over the moon. I started calling my mom. I called my mom. My mom was driving. She pulled over. She started crying. I called my previous manager. Basically, I called every single person that needs to hear this good news because everybody knows the struggles. My manager was like, I was always praying for you, and I knew it was going to happen. And eventually, it actually happened. And one thing that I learned from all this journey was my perseverance and my tenacity because I never gave up. Even the moment that I wanted to throw in the towel, something was telling me that, no, you can't. Because if you don't do this exam or if you don't become a pharmacist, what else are you going to become? Because I said to myself, even if I've got a plan B, my plan B is resting on my plan A. So I'm still going to actually become a pharmacist. But any other thing I want to do, I will do it later. But there's no way I can become a pharmacist. And I persevered, and eventually I became a pharmacist last year.
You did it! Oh my goodness. What a story. But you're not the only one. You know, there's many other sort of pre-registration or trainee pharmacists who have been through what you've been through. Mm-hmm. But not a lot of people talk about it. For some people, it's really embarrassing. You feel like you've let yourself down or you've let other people down. Yeah. And for you, like you've even mentioned that it was hard for your family to hear the news because in some ways they're relying on you to be the guy that gets the degree, that becomes the professional within the family, you know, especially because you were like the first one. So that's a lot of pressure. And
to me, I didn't actually, it was more of my family were more of that kind of support type. They didn't put that pressure. If there's any form of pressure, I would say it was coming from me, myself. I was rather putting that pressure on me because my mom kept on asking me that, are you sure you'll be able to do it? Because if you can't, I'm good. I don't want to put any pressure on you that you have to become the pharmacist. But if it's something that is coming from you, it's something you want to do, I'm 100% behind you. And previous years, as you made mention, people don't talk about it, but I've heard people's story. I remember when I was at uni, back in the days when they used to release their results online, anyone can go online, search for people's name and everything. I remember my first mentor I had when I went to university, he faced similar experience. He was so mad at himself. Because I know his surname, I went straight on the list. I didn't. And with me, one thing I have practiced in life is I hate asking people for their results. If the person hasn't told me, I need to read the room to understand why they haven't told me. But in his circumstance, I remember the message I sent him. It was a Friday. The message I sent him was like, bro, I do understand how it feels like. I'm not going to ask you of anything, but you know that if you need anyone to talk to, I'm here for you. And I think I was in second year. That's when I sent that message. So when I was not even expecting any reply, but I was just letting him know that he was not alone. Maybe there might be a lot of expectations of him that he has to actually be the person to show us that, yes, he's going to pass. So when I didn't see that, I resonated and I was like, you know what, that could be me, so I might as well actually end up, reach out to him. And I reached out to him. He was open, he was frank, and he was able to actually end up pass his second round. Similar thing happened to my other mentor as well. He faced through. So with me, people not passing it for the first time, so many people around me have gone through and they have been very transparent. Henceforth, I didn't feel that kind of pressure that I feel like I'm a failure, because I can actually pinpoint examples of the people who are ahead of me, who have gone through it and have come out successful. So I had those kind of models ahead of me who showed me the reality rather than like hiding it and making me feel like I had to pass it the first time around. And all the time, someone told me, says, you could actually get all the first class at School of Pharmacy, but Pre-Reg will humble you. And someone even shared that I know someone who got a first class and unfortunately couldn't become a pharmacist because the Pre-Reg really stressed them out and they exhausted all their chances and they only had a pharmacy degree. So all these, I had to actually take it in that the journey is not as straightforward as we think it is. It's going to be a lot of bumpy roads, a lot of crooked roads, a lot of roads that you have to shape it yourself. No one is going to do it for you. You just have to end up grafting and persevering. And it's out of it, that's when the success is born. And that is what I actually went through.
It's kind of a mindset thing, really, isn't it?
Yes.
It's all in the head.
Mm-hmm.
I had not a similar experience in terms of the pre-reg exam, but for me, it was the transition from university to getting the pre-reg, because we didn't have Oriel back then. We just used to apply to any, community pharmacy or hospital that we wanted to work for. And for me, the application process, I always got the interview. But then when I got to the interview, I freaked out. And it was a mindset thing.
Yes.
It was the pressure in terms of competition.
Mm-hmm.
And when I actually sit in front of other people and try and sell who I am, what my worth is, what I'm good at, what my skills are, I just found that so difficult. So I just did not get awarded any jobs for the training year. And luckily, there was like a second round. So if someone was awarded a pre-reg position but didn't take it, then obviously that role would open up again. So I slotted into a hospital place through that route. Mm-hmm. And thankfully I did, because it was the greatest decision for me and it was amazing. And then the training year for me really just helped me to build the confidence that I needed, so that when I finished the training year and applied for my first Band 6 position, I went for a residency and got the job and was super confident once I got to that point. I just needed a little bit of confidence building and boosting along the journey. But then also when I moved to the UAE, because I moved to Dubai to be with my husband.
Wow.
And was looking for jobs for months and months and months. And at this point, I'd finished my residency, was really excited. I'd done my 3 years, but I got rejected from every application. And that was, and it took me 10 or 11 months to find a job. And that was just so disheartening. I was so disappointed, because you feel at this point, you've done so well to get to the point where you've done a 3-year residency, you've got an incredible amount of knowledge, lots and lots of really good experience. You've rotated to different specialist areas, you've done the night shifts, but no one wants to give you a chance. And again, like, it comes back to mindset, it comes back to perseverance and trying not to let the external kind of forces like impact what you believe you are.
Yes.
And it's so hard.
It's hard. It is hard. It's so hard,
It's very challenging. But now you're a pharmacist.
Yes.
So let's talk about all the amazing stuff that has happened. So, and I'm so excited that your NHS trust also decided to give you a chance. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because they believed in you.
Yes.
They saw that you were worthy of the job, that you were going to be a pharmacist, and they accepted that everyone has some challenges, and they didn't see it as a failure.
Yes.
They were just seeing it as a little speed bump on the way.
So, fast forward, after I actually finished the pre-reg at that trust, it's not the same trust I'm in. I moved to a different trust because where I was actually placed, it was deep down Essex, and the travel wise is going to be very, very challenging. Henceforth, I had to, and I had that the trust I was working in was a mental health trust. So I thought that, yes, that's the final place. But the other hurdle was that the site I was offered at the beginning of my band 5 wasn't where I'm going to, because they wanted us to spread across. And I was like, I can't actually take it because of travel, and they're not going to take that into factor. And traveling from London to Chelmsford every single day is a hell of a journey. So I decided that unfortunately I have to. So after I declined it, I became a local pharmacist from the time that I finished till I actually ended up getting into my current role that I'm actually in, and the current trust I'm in, which I was offered the band 6 role as a mental health pharmacist. And part of the role is to actually work in rehabilitation ward. So currently I'm actually on my rotation for adults and rehabilitation before I go back to mental health ward.
Amazing. Yeah. And from kind of your initial journey into pharmacy, I mean, lots of exciting things have happened from winning awards. You've started your podcast.
Yes.
You've become a mental health advocate, and you really believe in supporting young people through mental health in terms of their journey.
Yes.
And I love that. And also creating health content. So maybe start with a podcast and tell us your motivation around developing that.
Fantastic. So in terms of my podcast, I'm someone who is very, very chatty. Like, I love conversation. I love to share ideas with people, and I love to learn from people as well. So all the time, I'm very, very conversational from my early infancy age to date. I'm very, very conversational. There's no time that someone will come around me and say that I've just been silent. The moment I'm silent, you know that there's something wrong with me, because one way or another, I'll bring a conversation, or any conversation the person brings, I will delve into it and actually share my ideas, or I'll listen. So I have been doing the advocacy for approximately 6 years now. No, actually, it's not 6 years. It was 2015. So I started 2017 because I had my personal experience in 2015. It was 2017. So 7 years approximately. I've actually been doing the advocacy using my social media to end up putting out posts, because every morning my aim was to actually end up posting one thing about mental health that people could learn. And that was when I was in second year. So at that time on social media, I hadn't seen anyone doing those kind of stuff, posting all these kind of stuff to let people educate, because at that point I was coming from the point of uplifting people, because social media, we all know how people can be very, very, very horrible to others, whereby they can actually bully people. And most often, the stuff that we see on social media about mental health was when someone ends up taking their life, or there's a demise of a celebrity whereby they might have actually ended up taking their life. Then I realized that it's becoming something that is only talked about when someone or a big personality takes their life. That's when we actually talk about our mental health. But our mental health is as important as our physical health. we see everything, every post and every stuff talking about people going to gym and everything, but we don't let people talk about their mental health journey. So I started with the advocacy, and taking a step back, way back in 2014, when my granddad actually passed on, when I was doing my A-level, I didn't know anything about depression. I never knew anything. I've never had anyone who has had a conversation with me, because the stigmatism and the difficulty around that conversation makes everybody shy away from having it. So when my granddad actually passed on, it really affected, because he's the one who actually raised me. So when I heard the news, it was a shock. It was a shocking moment for me. So I have to actually get my head around it. And it was my mom's friend, who actually saw me and my body language and told my mom that I think my granddad's death has affected me. So she needs to take me out. She needs to give me a break, like take me to Ghana for the funeral and everything, so that I would be able to actually end up recovering. And that time I have not shared anything. My mom had not told me anything that someone has had this kind of conversation with her. So as time went on, around January 2015, early January 2015, I felt this kind of thing whereby I was losing interest in all of the stuff that I have interest in. I was losing interest in my studies. I was having this headache whereby it's not stopping. It's just been consistent. I've taken paracetamol, it's not going. I've lost interest in school, but I was not actually showing it to anyone. I was just being able to cover it. So 2 days before I left the country, something popped in my head. I was like, have you heard about depression? I was like, nah. Let me go online. So I sneaked myself, went to Google, typed depression, and I started seeing the symptoms of it. And I realized that is exactly what I was actually going through. Fast forward, I never told anyone, because I know that I'm leaving the country. I'm going to be in a happy place. I'm going to meet the rest of the family. I'm actually taking a break from the environment I'm in. So when I went to Ghana, everything was fine. And when I came back, I also started finding it very difficult to be in a room by myself. I started feeling low when I'm actually by myself. So I have to start mingling myself. So I came back to the country after the funeral on a Friday morning. I'm supposed to rest, but I went straight back to school because I feel like if I go back to school, I'll be able to distract myself from everything that's actually happened, so that I can actually end up moving on. So fast forward, after that, I never had that conversation. My mom came, I never had that kind of conversation again. So in 2017, there was a story about a young lady back in my country who was just out there doing a lot of stuff. Like, we thought that it was for public attention, i.e. she would go semi-nude, she would do videos of herself and everything. So we thought that everybody thought that it was kind of attention seeking, because right now we're in a social media world whereby people do stuff for attention. Then one day she told her story, and she says that she took a break. She actually went on vacation, and while she was on vacation, she started experiencing headaches. Then fast forward, she went to hospital, and a specialist told her, have you heard about bipolar? And she was like, no. And it's just like, I think you've got bipolar, because I've run all the tests, I've done all the necessary assessments I need to do on you, and the results that is actually coming is that you're showing symptoms of bipolar. So we need to start treatment on you. Then she started. So me watching that interview was a life-changing moment, because it made me realize how you can be because she was very, very smart. You can be the smartest girl. You can be the smartest guy. You can have everything together, but your mental health can take everything away from you in one go. So when I heard about that, it really motivated me that, I think I need to actually raise much attention on mental health. At that time, I was also doing a placement in a mental health trust in London. And I was trying to actually navigate which pharmacy specialty that I want to actually end up getting into. That was early second year. So by doing a placement in mental health, building my confidence in knowing more about mental health, having one of my favorite lecturers who works in a mental health trust, hearing about this story, having my own personal experience, actually came together that I think this is the route I want to take. And I need to actually start it from the get-go, start advocating, educating people. So from that get-go, I started actually having speaking engagements, having Instagram Live, having conversation with people who have lived with a mental health condition, throwing more light and everything. So it reached a point whereby I said I need to transition in having a real life conversation with people, because I like talking naturally. I like having conversation. And a lot of people have always told me that you need to have your YouTube channel because you spend most of your time on YouTube, and the amount of knowledge you do have is going to be very, very, very helpful to other people as well to learn from you. And there are certain information that you do have that a lot of people might not have. So your platform is needed. And I've always making excuses. I don't have the time because pharmacy is demanding here and there. So fast forward, or a day before my birthday last year, I was like, nah, I think I want to actually end up having my channel. And plus, because I do speaking engagement as well, and as a speaker, I need to build my portfolio of my speaking experience, whereby lots of places that you want to speak, they want to actually see your previous speaking engagement, see the video, see the engagement and everything. So I was like, I have to use the YouTube as a platform to document all this about my advocacy, about my speaking engagement with people, so that there's evidence over there. And also, apart from that, people too will be educated. And that was how my podcast journey and my YouTube journey started.
Exciting. And your podcast is called The Shelf Conversation.
Yes, The Shelf Conversation.
And you started it in May, so you've got 3 episodes out already.
Yes.
So I will make sure to link your podcast into our show notes for this episode. And your YouTube channel is live and up and running as well, which is really, really cool. So I'll make sure that people are aware of that. How has it been for you starting a podcast and a YouTube channel? Like, have you enjoyed it? Have you found it difficult? How do you manage your time with working as well?
Thank you, Anisha, for asking that question, because most often a lot of people, they only see the front of the scene, which is the content is on YouTube or is on Spotify or Apple, and they are listening or they are watching it. But I say a lot of work goes on behind the scenes because I haven't got a team. I'm an individual. The only person I've got is my brand strategist, who's not even based in this country. He's based in Ghana. So he does my editing, most of the editing. Right now, I've got another editor over here in this country. So I started the journey with him. When I initiated the idea of the podcast, he actually bought it. And I do the research. I actually go behind and actually pick up the topic, do the research online, because I always want to use evidence-based research to back whatever we are actually ended up discussing. So I do the research. I find a guest, reach out to the guest, which 9 out of 10, the guests actually make it easy. They subscribe to it and they end up making it arrange. I find the studio I want to shoot at, which I've got 2 studios I normally shoot at, either North London or South London, depending on the place or the studio that's closer to my guest, because I always want to do the traveling down my guests to actually do the traveling. So we find a common ground, which place is nearer. I end up actually doing the interview or the conversation, sit behind the camera and do everything with the guest. I balance it with my 9 to 5 by always telling people that I've got 9 to 5 that I do, but my 5 to 9 is for my side hustle, which is my podcast. So I take a lot of time to actually do research because I want to come to the show prepared with a lot of questions, because I feel like if I've got an expert, I need to learn a lot from the expert. I need to ask personal questions that I have got that is bothering me, and I've also want to ask questions that my guests would be able to learn from as well, which so far, that's the feedback I've got from people. I never knew this and that, but by following your podcast, I've been able to learn this amount of information. I've been able to learn this. Now I'm going to take good care of this and that. So it's been very, very enjoyable journey, and it has really shaped me. Although my previous experience have taught me to always persevere, but YouTube has shown me a different level of perseverance, because you will post the content, it might not move as far as you want it to. The engagement and everything, it might not be going in that direction, but because I've got my brand strategist who is very well versed when it comes to social media, we always try different stuff of making our content available. But one thing that always drives me is my faith, because I always tell people that I didn't actually start this podcast or I didn't start this YouTube by chance. It was God who has actually ended up pushing me, because I had this idea as far back as 2018, but I've been sitting on the idea. I've not really done it. So if God has given me the energy, I will let God do everything. I'll do my bit by doing the researching about social media, because everything that we're doing is run on the engagement and the algorithm. And all the time, there are so many routes, but all the time I believe in organic, because I want the audience who are watching it to benefit from it. The views, it would come if everything that you are doing is beneficial, but I didn't want to take the route whereby I force people to watch it. I want it to be so organic that as time goes on, if it's becoming beneficial, it's the people watching it that will build a platform, and it builds that kind of like authentic kind of content whereby people can resonate and they can learn a lot. So the views and everything is actually secondary nature for me, by getting the content right, getting the information right, because sometimes I myself, I go back and actually watch my own content just to learn something new. And that's how much I love my own content, because I listen in my car, I watch my YouTube, I watch I listen to my content and everything. So I always say that you have to fall in love with the job first. It doesn't feel like a job. It feels like a second nature to me. You have to actually love it. If you don't love it and you're doing it for the views, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to throw in the towel, because the views are not going to come as fast as you want. But as the platform actually builds, you realize that some old content that you built, it started also getting that kind of engagement. And I gave myself the time to learn, because before YouTube, I've been studying other YouTubers about their journey, about how they build their platform. And I was like, that is how I want to build it. But I have taken the advice of what they wish they knew before they started YouTube to build my channel. So I'm not going to do the same mistakes that they did, but rather pick it up from the advice that they are giving. And I'm still actually in the infancy stage.
Absolutely. You've just started your journey, and it's so exciting that you know so much already about YouTube growth, building the podcast, the whole idea of contacting a guest to recording, editing, publishing. It's really creative and innovative. It's part of the reason why I love doing what I do. And I love the idea of organic growth. Yes. You learn 1% every time that you record an episode. It's really important to watch back and see what you've been doing. Maybe it's the way that you speak, or the number of extra words, likes, ahs that come into conversation that you have to improve. It could be the way that you ask questions, or that even, it could be anything. You're always learning. Yes. And it's so different to what we do in pharmacy. But at the same time, for you, the content is so relevant to the job that you're doing and the area of focus that you're going into, which is so exciting that you're going to constantly learn about topics of conversation that directly link to what you do in your day-to-day job. So that's awesome. And I'm really proud that you've got this far.
Thank you.
My last question, and also to congratulate you, is to say that you've won multiple awards in your journey. So you may have experienced a lot of struggle, but you have also done amazing things. So tell us about some of the awards that you've achieved in your journey and how those awards have come about for you as well.
Fantastic. So among all my awards, I treat all my awards the same way. And always I tell people that how I see awards is a step. Every award that I get, when I get it, I ask myself, so what's next? Because I don't want to get an award and get complacent, because there's more to be done. So every award, immediately I receive it, I reflect and I ask myself, what's next? And how I always do is, before the whole world hears about it, I had actually ended up reflecting. So before I post it out there, the congratulations, the thank yous, everything, I have absorbed all of those within me before I even put it out there. Because one of the things that I always do is I always thank myself first before I put it out there, before I want to hear other people actually thank. Because if I don't do that, I will get so zoomed into the social media world. What if I post and no one comments? does that mean that like it was not something we're celebrating? So I celebrated myself before I actually put it out there for other people to actually celebrate me, because it's really, really important. Sometimes we don't end up giving ourselves the enough gratitude of the stuff that we've done. One of the awards that I never thought I would ever get was the Diana Awards, which is an award body set up by Prince William and Prince Harry in memory of Princess Lady Diana. So that award actually is set up to celebrate impactful young people across the whole world. So this award is not only awarded to young people in the UK, it's globally. So I work with an organization, which I was one of the board directors, is Reach Out to All. I was a speaker for one of their conferences for young people during the COVID. So when I ended up starting working with them, the CEO is someone who has been following my journey before I even joined. She's been following my journey as far back, I think it's 2017. There was an Instagram page called Black Excellence, that True Light, Black Excellence, I think Black Excellence Network or something along the line, which actually profiled me and celebrated me. So she chanced on it and she reached out to me and she really loved the work I was actually doing. So when she did that and I got the opportunity to speak, she offered me the opportunity to be one of their board of directors, which I have been speaking at their event as well. So when I saw the Diana Awards, it was my mentor who firstly, I saw her post it, because I've seen people around me who have won the Diana Awards, but I said, I'm not doing anything fascinating that will let me be able to win these kind of awards, because I saw what I'm doing as is something that needs to be done. It's normal. Me talking about mental health and everything is something that needs to be. So I didn't see it as something that is extraordinary that needs to be rewarded. So when I saw my mentor post it, she posted a young person called Inspiring Vanessa. That's her Instagram name. I saw it and I read about the young person. I was like, wait, so this is what this young person did. Then I think what I'm doing, it also needs to be heard about, because if this young person is doing this and it's similar to what I'm doing and she's been rewarded, then I think I need to actually let my director know. So I actually sent to my director, I asked my director, the question I asked was, do you think I fit the criteria of being given the Diana Award? Just like, yes, why not? You overqualify. So when she said that, I was like, okay, then it's in your hands. And she nominated me. So when she nominated me, I actually literally forgot about it. So one February, well, I think it was February, because most often the Diana Awards is actually released on in July. That is when Lady Diana's birthday, 1st of July, I believe. Yeah. So when she received the email, I think in February, I was in my room and she's like, "Oh, Kwame, check your email." And normally she would not email me around like 10:30 in the evening. I was like, what could it be? So I went and it says that congratulations, your nominee has actually qualified to be part of the list. However, he's not allowed to say to anyone because they want to have a whole ceremony for it. So I have to actually end up keep my lips very, very tight from February to July. I have to keep my lips very, very tight. I've got good news, but I can't share. So I didn't read that bit where it says you can't share it. So quickly, someone who has won it before, who talked me through the process of how it goes, I quickly sent a message to the person on Instagram. Thank God the person has not opened it. So I quickly unsent it. So the funny thing is, not knowing, the person's post notification was on. So when I sent it, the person saw something along the line of award, but because the person's at work, it didn't draw her attention. So I quickly deleted it. So later she reached out to me like, Kwame, I actually saw a message that you sent me a message, but I came in and there is no message. What's going on? Then I was like, honestly speaking, I was not supposed to do this, but because you were a part of it and I've sent you a message, I don't want to keep you wondering what it is, but I just let you know that thank you. I've been I'm part of the 2022 cohort of young people who have been awarded the Dana Award. So it's like, wow, fantastic. So when they did the big ceremony, I was even at work, and through that, I actually got interview with the BBC with the work that I'm actually doing with mental health advocacy and everything, and the next step forward about the mental health advocacy. Other than that, I've won the Black Awards, which is, I won it in 2023, which was recognizing my role in healthcare and everything I'm doing, because I'm one of the people, I didn't even end up mentioning it. Whilst the COVID was happening and we were struggling with studies, I was still working in pharmacy as a dispensing assistant. So I went through those kind of path. And that Black Awards, when I was nominated they recognized me as one of the COVID-19 heroes. I was nominated, I didn't win. Then the second year, my nomination went through. So I was not expecting to actually win the Black Awards as well. But when my name was mentioned, when I took the stage, I told everybody that finally I've won the Black Awards. It actually happened 3 times, but with me, I don't give up. I always, when I believe that something needs to work, I'll find ways and means, praying and everything to actually make it work. And this year, 2024 in Birmingham, I was actually the first runner-up for the Potential Lock Awards, as I think most likely to do something that was also actually given to me. So every award that I get is a step. It's a step forward, like it's a step to what I want to actually end up doing. So that's how I see awards. Yeah.
It is true. I mean, it's progress, right?
Yes.
It's making progress towards different goals that you're trying to achieve, different pathways, with whether it's your public speaking journey, your podcasting journey, and you got to celebrate those wins. So I'm really proud of you and excited for you.
Thank you very much.
And what does the future hold for Kwame in terms of your pharmacy journey?
The future, I would say the future is bright. The future is bright because there's a lot of stuff that are going on behind the scenes, not only in this country, but back home in Ghana as well, which hopefully anyone who is actually going to actually follow my journey on my social media will actually get to know about how everything actually unravels as the journey goes along. Right now, currently in my rotation, hopefully after my rotation right now in adult and frailty rehabilitation ward, hopefully I actually end up moving to the mental health to continue with start my role as a mental health pharmacist. And my aim is to actually continue my studies, because I believe in always learning and finding something new, which my pathway of change making, which also ties in with my mental health advocacy and also public health, because I'm a big fan of ensuring that we end up bridging the gap when it comes to health inequalities. So hopefully go back to university to go and study masters in public health. And as time goes on, hopefully I actually branch out and do a lot of exciting things. But the bigger picture is to work with big organizations like the WHO, the Ministry of Health, the Public Health, Education, and work with the UN to be able to help solve health inequality issues, which mental health actually falls underneath that kind of umbrella, to be able to make sure that people are actually getting easy access to healthcare at different parts of the world, easy access to mental health services and facilities, and also contribute to the well-being of humanity. So that is what the future holds.
That is so exciting. And you are so early in your journey and you've been through so much already, but you've got so much to look forward to. So Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode. And yeah, good luck for everything that comes in the future.
Thank you very much, Alicia.